get done with. Okay, live from where are you, Alhambra?
From Lawndale
Live
near
from Lawndale, the
Torrance and Real.
garden capital of the 405-110 corridor. Patricia Castillo, fresh off of an open house. I'm Bill Gross, not at an open house. How you guys doing? Patricia, how are you
I'm
doing?
doing well. I'm doing well. I was out here at this open house today for a couple of hours. Started at 12:30, and I hadn't even finished putting up my signs and everything in the front of the house. I already had people coming, so it was pretty busy for a Wednesday. Um, Lots of people coming through today. I had at least 12 different groups come through, which is pretty good, I think, for a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I was glad to see that about half of those buyers are serious buyers and they're actually already pre-qualified.
How about that?
So I think buyers are starting to step it up, because in the past, maybe one person would be pre-qualified coming through an open house.
And so when you say pre-qualified, are they working with an agent, another agent? Are they just on their own getting pre-qualified? How is that happening?
Well, both. I've experienced this at another open house I had a couple of weeks ago. And this was for the Claremont listing that we were discussing on the last call. But a couple of buyers what I'm finding is that they're going to their credit union or their bank and getting their own loan approval. And so, I usually let them know that you can get a second opinion if you'd like to shop it with a mortgage broker, because they can shop the rate for you. It's free to apply, and you only apply once with the broker, and then they can shop the loan for you with different lenders. So I let them know that, just so that they don't box themselves into one rate specifically. And you never know, there might be other credits out there that a lender may give to them to incentivize them to earn their business. So yeah, so I've seen a couple of buyers that, I talked to today that were pre-qualified. And then last open house, the same thing. A couple of them had agents, but some buyers are just kind of taking the reins themselves and going and getting pre-qualified, which I think is great, because this way they know what range to shop in.
Now, I find that generally speaking, while credit unions are cheaper and very service oriented, I also find that they are not often able to perform on a real estate sales transaction. In particular, in my experience, aren't always available or willing to contact the listing agent, which is a piece that helps get that buyer's offer accepted. Are you able to work with um, credit unions? Have you found that to be an option successfully, or is it you have the same challenges that I face?
I find it a little bit more challenging with credit unions. They also have sometimes a firewall built into their email system. So
Right.
the last transaction that I just closed in Camarillo was with a lender, or I should say a loan officer, through Ventura County Credit Union. Now, throughout the entire transaction, just imagining not being able to communicate through email with a lender, right? They're they're a critical component to the transaction. And my emails would not be received on his end, and he could not send me an email.
Right.
So everything had to, pick up the phone, call, and no texting either. So we couldn't communicate through text. Now, we were playing phone tag. I was leaving messages, he was leaving me messages, and we eventually got the deal done and closed. But it was frustrating, and more time was wasted, I should say, because it's definitely not an efficient way to do business in this day and age. Is we have to use that. So a lot of credit unions have that. I would say there is that lag in response where you're trying to communicate with the loan officer, and they may have specific hours. They're not like maybe a mortgage broker where they work from home. They have more accessibility on the weekends. You can reach them more, around normal business hours.
Yeah, that's the challenge I find that I mean I don't want to say make them wrong for being concerned about customer security because at the same time every mortgage company and every bank has been hacked by hackers and as a result our identity has been ransacked by criminals around the world and so the credit unions, I think, because they're smaller, are a little more security conscious. And on one hand, it feels like they're wrong. On the other hand, I don't know they are wrong, right? I just want to get my customer the house, but they're also trying to worry about the security, and so it's hard to say they're wrong for that, but it certainly is hard to work with. And
It
I think
is.
I also think that one of the challenges when you work in that environment is it's easy to start acting like the federal government. They might be right about the email and security, but then they're going to make up for it with extra phone calls. They can't say, "Oh, our email is very secure, therefore we don't communicate well." You have to then extra communicate where you can, I think, and that's where again, like all organizations, I think the top credit union people are great, but the vast majority are deficient. It's like getting your loan through the post office, which
Yes, it's like snail mail with working with the credit union.
yeah, I just ordered you and I work on Transaction Gardino, sharing with you. So I'm ordering a property inspection report and they only return it via mail. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
who the heck does that? Why would you want to? When I
Yeah.
have to mail something, and I occasionally mail things for different probates when you deal with courts, I have stamps, I have envelopes. Like, why would you do this? What would you
Right.
put, other than your vote for president, what would you put in the mail and hope it shows up?
It's true. It's hard to track it when it's just regular mail. And not only that, but it just takes such a longer time.
So, okay, so let's talk about, I think you mentioned it briefly
Mhm.
before we started. One of the big news topics, certainly amongst realtors, and certainly in the news industry of real estate, is this big
Mhm.
lawsuit, which I think the headlines would suggest is going to completely turn over and disrupt real estate. It's going to save buyers billions of dollars, and it's going to make real estate companies simultaneously go bankrupt, and Zillow and Redfin own the entire market. What are you hearing from your prospective new customers or open house visitors or your current clients? Are they
Mhm.
paying attention to this? Are they have questions about this? How is this playing in your world?
So I've started to have a few conversations about that with my clients because, for example, one of the buyers that came through today, they asked me, how is that going to affect what I need to come into the transaction with? So I said, well, first of all, nothing has been actually set in stone yet for California, right? Um, Judge hasn't signed off on it yet. They haven't started implementing yet. So probably, if everything does go through, then maybe by July, August, we'll start seeing um, something to the effect where there isn't compensation for a real estate agent that's representing a buyer.
Right.
Now, the buyer would then have to pay the real estate agent for professional representation, which I think that they definitely need. Now, in terms of affordability, that could be a concern for first time home buyers because they're already scraping up to get that down payment together. Even if they're using an FHA loan, right? They're putting down 3.5%. I do feel like there's going to be some, thinning out of buyers because they may step back and say, this is too much. I can't come up with another 15,000 to pay a realtor. But in any change that we've seen in the real estate market, there's always adaptability. And so I feel like in the future, once this all goes through, the market's going to adapt, buyers are going to adapt, and it's all going to work out. Buyers will end up getting that cost to pay for a realtor. They'll either work it into the loan or work it into their financing somehow. to be able to pay for compensation for realtor, but it's definitely something that a buyer needs so that their best interest is looked after.
Well, if you think about it, a house today sells for, if I use a round number, because it's easy to work with $100,000, not that there's any house for $100,000, but just to use that. Normally, most commonly in our market, the buyer's commission's 2.5%. Is that what you see?
2.5 or 2.
2.5 or 2. Let's just take 2.5 because it's a rounder number. So of the $100,000 sales price, the seller is paying the listing agent typically 2.5%, and the buyer's agent typically 2.5%. So they're paying about $5,000 in commissions. The seller is, of which $2,500 is going to the buyer's agent. So theoretically, if the seller is not paying that to the buyer's agent, then you would think the sales price would have to go down by $2,500, all things equal, or the money just went from the buyer to the seller, right? Because you look at comparable sales, but those comparable sales include a buyer's commission on top of it. And so I don't believe prices are going to go down as a result of this. I don't think that there's just no way that's going to work out. So there's going to have to be some way. And the other thing is the lawsuit that happened was in Missouri. Their model is not like ours. In ours, we do have the sellers specify the commission to the listing agent and the buyer's agent. We do have buyer agent agreements. We do have the ability to specify commissions. We do have the ability to specify who pays it, the buyer, the seller, both conditional, excess, and all that. So I believe what we're going to end up with in California is going to look more like our current system, but on every offer, you'll have to attach a buyer broker agreement with a commission on it. And that commission will probably not be in the MLS, but you'll probably have to contact the listing agent to see what they're expecting, or in the listing be somewhere saying, this is what we're assuming the commission to be. So at some point, it's going to look a lot like it is now. I just think the whole thing it's not going to help buyers. I still don't understand who, other than an attorney getting paid and a politician, who thinks a buyer is going to come out ahead in this deal. Somebody has to explain that one to me. I don't see it. If anything, they're going to pay a commission to the agent on top of, they're going to look at comparable sales prices and want to pay the same sales price. Yeah. And they'll probably be paying, in essence, more for the same work.
Right. And not only that, but, right now on certain properties that are sold on a bidding platform, the buyer's already paying a 6% premium. There was I did a video this weekend on a home that I went to go see in Covina that was being auctioned on Easy Platform. It's a bidding platform for real estate. So every buyer can see what the next offer just posted, right? So you can see what you're up against. Now, every buyer that made an offer also had to include a 6%, they call it a premium, which is the commission being paid to both agents. Right. So that's already happening in certain circumstances where the buyer, pays for the real estate commission for both sides.
Right. And I think, looking at some of those cases where it looks great, if you can get the same price you might get otherwise, the seller is basically getting the commission paid for. But the reality is people are bidding on an auction like that, generally are looking for a discount. And so I just saw a property that went through that auction and the buyer backed out 3 or 4 times, the winner, because when they really got down to the appraisal, they're already overpaying in essence. If they match the same sales as another property, they're overpaying by 5 or 6% by definition. Right. So it's challenging. And then usually those properties that are being auctioned are usually there's something odd about them as to why they're going to auction in the first place. Most retail sellers don't go through that. There's always a reason why. It's just some seller.
Yeah,
it's gonna get marked down. Okay, so where are we? Interest rates. Last week came back down below 7%, snuggled in at 6.9192, and been there all week so far. Mm-hmm. That's got to be good news for buyers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right under 7%. So
looks like as soon as we got rid of, what's his name, rates went down and stayed down.
That's true. So yeah, I mean, rates have been staying where they're at, right, hovering right under 7%. And according to the Feds and their last meeting, there may not be another rate drop until maybe June, July. I think that's still being monitored though, depending on how the economy is looking, the job market, and inflation. So we may see rates come down just a little bit more in the sixes, but that's yet to be seen towards the better part of summer, which is usually when buyers are out looking for property and they're serious and they want to get into a home before August, before the school year starts. So I do see a busy market for spring and summer.
Well, I think, and just to add into it, I think with the election coming up, there's a lot of pressure to try to keep things together through October, November, when the election season is in full swing. I think,
Right.
everybody who's in power wants to sweep any problems under the rug until after that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Could be volatile. I have a case right now. In fact, the Gardena case or a property where we're getting everything done early, but we're not closing escrow to June 10th. But the rate lock becomes an issue now because getting a rate lock for 75 days is way more expensive than 60 days.
Oh,
And so
sure.
do we wait till April 10th to lock in for 60 days? Do we pay a premium to lock in for 75 days? Do we just wait and roll the dice until April 10th and lock in then? So we'll see. It's going to be a vault. I think the rates should be stable for a couple of weeks, but I'd
Right.
hate to have to commit to an unlocked rate through November. That would be, I think you'd be taking some risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And if rates come down a little bit, then the buyer would actually be benefiting from that change. Rates coming down just a little bit can make a big difference on their
Big
payment.
difference. Big difference. Do you have a crystal ball? I have a crystal ball, actually. Let's see, where is it? It's right.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't. It's, a block. Now it really doesn't work. So I'm blocking it. There it is. It's right there. It's my crystal ball. But it doesn't
Yeah.
work. I look at it. I do all that to it, and it won't tell me where rates are headed. So, okay, Patricia. So, open house in Lawndale this week. What else do you have going on this weekend?
That's right. Just this property right now, most of my inventory has gone into escrow, which is
Listen
great.
to this. Most of my inventory.
Yes. So looking to get some new listings, and this one and under contract pretty soon too. So anybody looking to live in the South Bay, less than 4 miles from the beach, it's a duplex priced at $915,000. Give me a call.
Fantastic. I'm Bill Gross. I am the LA probate expert. Work with families in probate, trusts, attorneys, vendors, and I work with Patricia all the time. And she is superstar listing agent here in the Southern California area, from Lawndale, which is about 405, all the way to Claremont. But you also, I think, were you in Hesperia, or were you in? No, you were in
San Bernardino. That's
San
another
Bernardino.
property. Yes, that's another property that have a lot of traction on. We had an offer on it recently, and the buyer ended up losing hours at work. We were just about to accept their offer. Their hours were reduced, and that affected their ability to close, and so we couldn't accept their offer. So now we're having some new showings and new buyers coming in. So hopefully get something under contract soon there too.
Well, as the former newscaster Jerry Dunphy used to say, from the desert to the sea, Patricia Castillo has property listed in escrow probably at this point, and is able to help you with more business. So, Patricia, great seeing you as always. What's that in your backyard? That's the open house signs right behind you.
Yes, I'm telling you, I just came out of my open house. So they are. Yeah, I was surprised. So many people came by today. It was nice.
Well, out in the field meeting the little people. Thank you so much for taking time to meet with us.
Everybody have a great day, and thank you for watching. Always a good time, Bill.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.